Hello, welcome to Convex, where we are celebrating experiment-driven marketing. I am Siddharth and I am a product marketer at VW. If you want to know how your visitors are interacting with your website, where they are dropping off, and want them to come back to your website, do check out VW. Today we have Rui Matos, who is the Global Head of Conversion Optimization at Kaspersky. Kaspersky is a multinational cybersecurity company which protects over 400 million users globally from all kinds of cyber threats. I'm so excited to have you with us, Rui.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here as well.
So before we start Rui's presentation, I want to inform you that you can join Convex's official networking group on LinkedIn and ask your questions from this presentation. With that, Rui, the stage is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. So as mentioned, my name is Rui Matos, and I'm the Global Head of Conversion Optimization at Kaspersky. And today I'm here to speak to you guys about value proposition, which is one thing that I really value more than anything else when it comes to CRO testing. And I do think you should be doing the same as well. And hopefully my presentation will explain you why that's the case. But before I jump into that, just a quick reiteration on what was already mentioned regarding Kaspersky. So Kaspersky has been on the market for 22 years. It's a multinational cybersecurity company with 4,000 employees across 37 offices worldwide. And from a customer point of view, we are virtually available anywhere in the world. So anywhere from Southeast Asia to North America, we are literally everywhere. And with that, we protect over 400 million users globally with our B2C and B2B products. And we have a very clear mission, which is to save the world from any kinds of cyber threats, whether that's hackers, viruses, ransomware, anything like that. That's essentially our goal. From a CRO point of view, working at Kaspersky and working in the cybersecurity industry is also very interesting because the mindset of the customers having certain needs or necessities, especially when they are being targeted by a virus, by any kind of threat, allows us to really play with those aspects and work with the psychology aspects to really provide better experiences and better conversion rate oriented pages towards their particular needs. So today, on my topic about value proposition, I'm going to be covering 6 points and then add some extra add-ons in the middle. One of the points will be an introduction to value proposition, just a very short, brief intro to it for those who don't know about it, or for those who just want a quick reminder. I'm going to discuss about why you should be focusing on value proposition, what the components of value proposition actually are, how do you actually bring those together, as well as the potential of value proposition testing results. So this is normally what people are mostly interested about, how much conversion optimization, how much conversion rate increase can I actually get from this type of testing. And finally, just to cover up and to finalize, I will be touching on the importance of actually testing it, as opposed to just going ahead and doing it type thing. So as an introduction point, I'm going to be talking about the value proposition definition. So for the most part, if you Google it, if you find a description of it on Wikipedia or anything like that, or Infopedia or wherever you go, you will find this as a very standard type statement of what it actually is. And it says a promise of value that the customers will experience should they choose to buy your product or your service. Clear, makes sense. So customers read it, this is what they will expect to get, end of. Now, I will add something extra to it, and that's that the promise is only as good as your customer's understanding of it. The higher their understanding, the higher they value how good they value your value proposition to be, the higher the perceived value of your product or your service will be. And that's always where we find the tipping point between what's a bad value proposition and a good value proposition. And I have some examples here of a Fred Perry wallet. And I would like you guys to focus on the left-hand side where we talk about the description of this wallet. And it goes something around those lines. Designed in a hard-wearing, textured PU, our wallet has space for your notes and cards with a sealed coin pocket. embossed with our Laurel wreath on the front, and pretty much that's it. There's some extra points, but all it talks about these features, these features, these features. Now we do a comparison from Fred Perry to the Bellroy wallet, in which they turn those features into something more meaningful for the user. And in my opinion, the value proposition is a lot better because of that. So you start reading, it holds 4 to 12 cards. It gives you a quantifiable element. You know exactly what you expect when you get it. It gives you an exact size and a comparison tool that allows you to compare with different materials, different size objects. Tells you that you have a slim profile to reduce wallet bulk. And if that's your problem, and we have identified that as your problem on the user research, then suddenly that becomes something valuable. It answers your needs. And so on and so forth. It mentions 2 quick access card slots and things like that. They just add more value to the product than Fred Perry done. So this is a very quick example of how you can generally see and differentiate different value propositions. And on that, I would like to start showing you guys a little exercise. And the exercise is very simple. I have a box in my hand, and I would like to sell this box to you. And I would like you to buy it for $1,000. Will you take it? Now, on this type of exercises, when we actually run it in person in front of an audience, majority of the people will say, of course not. Why would I pay $1,000 for something I don't know? So at this point, we go with the basics that any website out there, any e-commerce website, any retail website would normally do. So we start by offering an incentive. So suddenly I can tell you, you buy the $1,000 box, but I will send you to your address for free. So you're going to get the free shipping. And the user is going, yeah, but I still don't know what I'm getting. It's still $1,000. So, okay, let's try the second best thing. Let's try some discounts. What about if I give you 20% on top and the box is now $800? You still wave your head and say no. And so on and so forth. If you try 30%, if you try 50%, the principle is the same. The value just isn't there. You still don't know what that box contains. And it could be something more expensive, but it could also be something really cheap, and you would be genuinely just losing money. But now I'm going to add another twist into it, and I'm going to tell you that inside there is a product from Samsung. And now you start thinking about it, and there is always some gamblers out there that decide, okay, Samsung, I could actually make some money out of these, let's go ahead and do it. But the majority of people still won't do it. So one extra value to it, I will add some urgency to it. Same thing again, limited time offer, $500 is free shipping, and you get something from Samsung inside the box. Will you buy it? The answer would still be no. So I will go back and do what every single company out there tries to focus on. I will redesign the box. And redesigning the box, again, I'll make it yellow in this case, could be something else. I could make a different CTA or whatever, it doesn't matter. Point being that 99% of the people still don't want a box. No matter how much incentives, discounts, redesigns you throw at them, it just doesn't matter. Because without the value proposition, everything else is irrelevant. And if you thought it really true, even knowing it was a Samsung object in the box, it could have well been a Samsung S10 costing $1,000, and you could have made some money when it was in discount, sure. But what if it was a wireless charger for $30? Then you would have lost a lot of money. And those kind of questions would go through your customer's mind, and they simply wouldn't make the decision. And that's one of the main reasons why, or rather the main reason why, value proposition is so important. Without it, it doesn't matter if you are reducing friction with your design. It doesn't matter if you are reducing anxiety with your awards. It doesn't matter if you are adding extra incentives to it. You need the important bit, the value proposition aspect of it. So now let's take it a twist and bring it a step further. What if we knew this? What if you knew that the product was a Samsung S10 phone device, and you would have a full list of features available to you? You would also have pictures of the product itself and a pictures of the product in use, which I couldn't add to this presentation for the sheer amount of quantity we could add here. The product can do phone calls, messaging, allows you to browse the internet, listen to music, take high-quality photos. You can use the product in many ways. From a security point of view, you can open it with your fingerprints and all the other biometric technologies out there. You can also use voice commands to make calls. You can connect to your friends and family to Facebook, Instagram, and other social networks. It compares fairly well to iPhone and the Huawei devices, and there is some explanations of why it compares and why it's better or why it's worse, and which features it has and which features it doesn't. But if we have that information on the page, you can know about it a lot better and start thinking of, should I make this decision or not? And likewise, internally, very important for product differentiation and positioning within a website, you could compare the Samsung range, the S10e or the S10 Plus against the normal S10. Again, different metrics of comparison. Or you could think about the benefits you're having it. You are able to stay connectable through the day to everyone. You are able to easily take stunning photos, and nowadays you have this cool feature that you can just upload the photos you take directly to Instagram with a single click. If you have a double SIM phone, you can use your personal and the work SIM, so the benefit there is that you don't actually have to carry two phones with you all the time. Having all of this on the page, does it change your mentality? Does it make you more likely to buy that $500 product after that free shipping and all the incentives? And the answer is, of course it does. It's like Kim would say, now we are talking, because now we actually know what the product is. We actually know what the product does. And that's important. And those items I have just touched on, all of those 6 items, is what I consider to be the 6 components of value proposition. And just to reiterate and mention them again, that's what the product is, what the product looks like, what the product does, how you can use your product, well, how does the product compare, and how do you actually benefit from having it. So focus on those. These are important and really allow you to optimize your product pages, category pages, home page, about us page, any kind of page on your website has relevancy towards this. All of them have this. And even though I mentioned product here, obviously the same applies to services. It's exactly the same thing. So I'll touch on each of those one by one, just so you guys get a bit more of an idea of what it actually means. And I will start with what the product actually is. What the product actually is the best way to explain this is using the Wolf of Wall Street famous quote, "Sell me this pen." And not just from the Wolf of Wall Street, you had this before that, and it's a very much standard sales tactic for a salesman to actually learn how to sell a product. And most people will fail at this. Most people will start these with, it allows you to write, blah, blah, blah. Cool, it's a benefit, but they don't go beyond that because they can't think it through. On what the product is, the key here is to actually explain in detail what the product is, really add the value to it. And let's take an example here. I have this pen on the screen right now, which costs $173.96. And you think about it and you go like, why would I on this earth buy a pen for that amount? You would generally ask that, unless you're obviously a very rich guy and you think, yeah, I need the most expensive pen in the world. But then I start adding some value proposition to it. I tell you that this is a Sonnet Mate lacquered black Parker pen. Now, if you know what a Parker pen is, and if you recognize the brand, you suddenly start thinking it through, okay, maybe it could be worth it. And then I start adding the elements to it. I tell you that it has a finish, which we have covered on the name of the pen, of Sonnet Mate Black Lacquer GT. It has a gold trim on the metal, so suddenly it's not any random material anymore. It's actually gold rather than a plastic material or anything I'm open with that. It has an epoxy resin powder cover on the material. Now, most of us won't actually know what this is, and that's fair enough. But all this information will add value, at the very least, to the people who actually know, the people who actually care, which on the Parker website case, most people probably will know. Otherwise, they wouldn't even bother and they will just buy a pen on your normal store. You want to know the ink, maybe that's important, maybe it's not, but maybe on your company you need to sign your contracts in black or blue ink, maybe that's critical, who knows. You want to know the writing type, it's a fine nib, and the nib is in stainless steel with a gold finish. Again, all we done here was describe this pen. And this description is directly from the Parker pen website, so there is nothing special here. But without it, we are trying to sell a pen for a silly amount of money, and people didn't know. But suddenly, what those gold elements, those fine nibs, those tweaks, that really had the value to it. And the key here is that a good value proposition allows you to increase prices by changing the user price perception. When we started, that pen was no way worth under £30 because you thought about it, I could get this pen from the supermarket at $10. But by adding that description of what it is, what it does, what material is used, your price perception has changed. It might not be enough, or it might be, but it changed and it went up. So again, little tweaks there that really allow us to go further. Second point is what the product looks like, or second component rather of value proposition. Excuse me. And on that one, I will start by a very well-known sentence, which started in roughly early 19th, and the world became addicted to it, which is one picture is worth 1,000 words. And the image on the left says one look is worth 1,000 words, and it's one of the very origins of it, or one of the 2-3 origins that eventually led to what we know today as one picture is worth 1,000 words. The reality is this is still the case. And knowing what your product looks like really adds that extra element of reality, of credibility to your product. And if you think about it, brands like Flickr, Pinterest, Instagram, or even Amazon, or any other kind of stores that rely heavily on the imagery that have been successful over the past years, it just shows a point. And Instagram, particularly when Pinterest, are crazy examples of this. Picture images are essential. And some of the examples of how we use them, this is the Sonos product. Some of you guys might be familiar with it. With the Sonos product, you might be getting this sound box and you think about it and you're like, where does it actually fit in my bedroom? Does it actually fit in my living room? Where do I have space for it? By adding this picture, it will allow you, for example, to understand the actual size of the physical products. How does it compare? How do you actually benchmark it to a cup of tea or a cup of coffee? And that's, again, critical. And for software devices, similar thing. You buy a software, let's say you are buying, in this case on the screen, you can see Slack, but let's say you are buying VWO for testing. One of the critical points you want to know is, how does the interface look like? What are the technologies? What are the examples of how do you actually get to your tests? How do you get to your test results? Where do you, especially for the optimization plan platform, how do you actually can see your hypotheses, your test ideas, the progress of your test strategy? All of those are pictures that add value to you because you can see stuff. You are not buying something that you don't know what it is, but you are understanding it. Now, pictures can go wrong as well, and I will touch on this in a bit, but they also can be leveraged to another level. And I'm actually going back because Slack does this very well. Slack does this very well, and you can see the little caption, which channels are where teams share ideas and make decisions. And on the bigger picture of the screenshot, I do recommend you to have a look at the Slack website just for the sake of understanding the whole strategy they use around images. But that's what I call a contextual image. And I'll give you another example of it from a Hoover, automatic Hoover that you can buy anywhere on Amazon or anything like that. And this particular image, again, adds context to it. I could have that Hoover running over the carpet and running over the art floor. And if it didn't mention art floor and carpet, and it didn't mention optimized cleaning, I wouldn't understand it actually meant that it can go over different surfaces. I would just see a Hoover cleaning the floor, and that's cool. But adding the context, it adds extra value to it. And adding extra value is very, very important. And I will show you how in a second. But the important bit is it allows you to fully convey the intended message of the image. And Airbnb, same thing. If we for a second ignore the part on the left, which I've already highlighted as well, we are looking at the image of an house in the mountains, and you think, cool, 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 that's nice. But if you don't have the context to it, you are just looking at a picture of a forest, of a mountain, of something you could do for an activity. But then you read the copy connected to it, you read the context of the image, and it says, book unique places to stay. And now you think, okay, that explains it. It's a unique place to stay. It's not a common place that you would normally go to, or your traditional hotel or anything like that. And in both of those cases, and in the tests that I have run at Kaspersky and before that, adding this context to images, and there is better ways of doing it and worse ways of doing it, but I don't have time to cover this today. We have seen increases on image improvement alone of 5 to 10% increase in conversion rate, and in some cases revenue as well, from both conversion and the average order value increase. But massive, massive. Please review your images on your website, have a look at them, see, do they actually add any value? Do they make any sense? Can you do it better? Can you add some context to them? Can you explain them? And you will see an uplift firm that I guarantee you. But then, on the negative, you can also see stuff like this where you think, does this really add value? So I looked at Shanty, which is a competitor of Slack. And learn how your business can benefit from Shanty on a demo call with our team. Bring your colleagues. Zero technical experience required. And I guess someone smart in their team thought that adding a matrix picture showing the blue pill and the red pill type thing could be a good decision. But how does that add any value to you? Why are you wasting your space with this? Add something useful. Add something that you could, if it's zero technical experience required, show a dashboard, show something where you can easily interact with it. You press a button and it does this or that. Add value. Don't add cartoons, don't add imagery that has no value, that has no reason to be there, simply for the sake someone thought it looks nice. So please don't do it. Otherwise, you might as well just be taking both of the pills, and I would be asking what the hell is wrong with you. Third component, what the product does. And an important one, and some of the components obviously overlap and they connect together, and that's good for you because it allows you to essentially on your copy, on your images, to kind of plug it together. But you will understand a bit more of it when we actually get to the bottom, to the end of this presentation. But what the product does is that is essentially providing some context to it. So you could know that the Amazon Echo example, it's a speaker. I mean, it says Amazon Echo 2nd generation smart speaker with Alexa, blah, blah, blah. If you don't know what it is, and obviously Amazon is a different story because people will know what it is. But if you get here and you don't understand what the speaker is, you think, okay, I just have a sound system in my house. But Alexa is much more than that. So why don't we mention the rest of the stuff? And Amazon really does, to be fair to them. So if you scroll back down, you can see it, but a lot of the companies don't. But on Amazon case, they actually go and mention Echo connects to the Alexa voice service to play music, answer questions, make calls, send and receive messages, provide information, news, sports, scores, weather, and more. All you have to do is ask. Now, if this wasn't here, no one would know what Alexa does. They would always think it's just a smart speaker. It just allows you to play music. Suddenly, it can do so much more than that. So again, go beyond the features listing that you described on the first component of what it is and really describe their world use. It's important. Fourth point, how can you use the product? And depending on the industry that you work on, you can have these in multiple different manners. And I have a couple of examples to really illustrate what I mean. So this example is from a supplements, bodybuilding supplements website. And the how to use really allows you to understand how those products work in your day-to-day life, if they are suitable for your lifestyle, for your business schedule, etc. So it was critical to provide that information to the user again. Another example to this is if you are ordering flowers. If you're ordering flowers for your wife, girlfriend, it doesn't really matter. Knowing the date that it arrives, knowing that it arrives on the day is essential. So again, showcasing that makes total sense. Yet it's surprising how many of the services and products don't actually do this. And then I started looking at something that I actually do myself a lot, which is takeaways. And in the UK, we have, let's say, 3-4 main takeaway providers, but I picked on 2 first ones, which were Just Eat and Deliveroo. And to my surprise, genuinely, they don't actually have any proper explanation on the website of how the user should use their services. You can find this information, which is the 2 snippets I found, on their FAQ and the help pages, but there is no mention of it on the home page, which is surprisingly, given it's a product that relies on people actually being able to order the takeaway from their phone. So surely explaining it to people would help. Because, okay, younger generations are okay with it and they are all self-taught and they will go ahead and do it. But what about everyone else? What about the people that don't know what it does or how it works? Wouldn't it be helpful for them to have a diagram explaining, look, you download our app, you select the restaurant you want, you select the food you want, you click for delivery and you do your payment, and it will be with you in less than an hour. Suddenly you think, oh, this is really cool. I don't need to go to the supermarket anymore. But this is not there. They focus on the quality of the food, which is for the people that already know how to use their app. But what about the ones that don't? Again, they are missing out on something. And as mentioned here, those two they have the component, but the placement and the quality leave a lot to wish for, and they could do so much better with this. 5th point, compare. This is, again, another key point, just like all the other 4 before that. But when we talk about comparing products, users have always 2 or 3 things in mind. You always compare the product you are buying to the different competitive products, and in some cases, some of the products or some services you even compare to the market-leading products. And that's an external comparison. Internally, within your product range, you are comparing things like the cheaper product, the most expensive product, what are the extra features you have in it, also very important. And you also compare it to references. And this even goes back to what I mentioned on what the product looks like, and how the Sonos box was comparing to the mug of coffee. That's also a comparison. So again, you connect the dots, you connect the points, but all it shows is that every buying decision is at a very degree of comparison. And if you aren't covering it, if you aren't catering for it, you are missing out again. And really the success of those comparison has been really showcased by what we have seen in the past few years. And the UK has been a perfect example of that, where we have so many companies now. We have Money Supermarket, USwitch, Confused.com, all of those comparison websites. And then you go deeper into affiliate marketing, which I have a lot of background on. And the comparison websites at affiliate level, same thing again. There is so much need for comparison, for understanding if you're making the right choice, for reassuring you that this is your right approach. Because the users have an inherent need to do that. So again, please answer that. And I got a few examples of how this is being done again. So on Amazon, if you are going to buy a laptop, or any kind of device, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll find a section called compare with similar devices. And Amazon knows that customers won't buy a laptop for $700 or for $600 out of nothing. People want to compare. They want to check, am I getting the Asus? Am I getting the HP? Am I getting these, and that? Let them. And let them on your site, because that stops them from going to compare elsewhere. That's important too. With VWO, and same thing again. So I'm using VWO. All of you guys are here. Most of you hopefully are using VWO. And the internal comparison is done here very well as well, where you need to understand what each of the packages actually have. The growth package, the pro package, etc. What you actually add to it. And it allows you to differentiate the products internally, which is important. And on top of that, internal comparison allows you to start playing with decoying as well, nudging of the products, so things that will lead you to higher average order value on top of the value proposition. So extremely, extremely, extremely important, even more so than external, I would think. If you have multiple products and those products are relatively comparable, please focus on this. Focus on differentiating your product range, on really positioning those products, explaining to the users why they should take this or why they should take that or why they should take that. Otherwise, if they go to your page and they don't know what to decide between the 3 options or the 4 options, whatever you have in your pricing table, then how can they buy your product if they don't understand it? So bear that in mind. Then point number 6, and the point number 6 is the benefits to you. And really, this is all about what's in it for me. And this is what users ask themselves. You explain them a product, you sell them the product, you cover all the 5 points before, and the users still go like, okay, so cool, it does this and this, but how do I benefit from it? And the answer, it's the answer that everyone asks. Consciously or unconscious, everyone is going to be asking you this. And you really need to answer that. Some of the examples of how you actually do that. This is taken from the Samsung website, from a TV block that they have on the page, from a quantum processor 4K, relax with a TV that adapts to your very best QK4 picture, etc., etc., etc. The point being, on the next sentence, they actually connect features with benefits. And they then do that by saying, save time searching with intuitive voice assistance. Now, if they just said, this smart TV has intuitive voice assistant, as a user, you're like, yeah, whatever. What is in it for me? But if you actually provide them with the benefit of having that feature, which is in this case, is save time searching by grabbing your remote and just saying, or Samsung, whatever TV, switch to the sports channel that I want to watch football, and they will do it. Then you see the benefit, you start thinking about it, and you can go expand it further, which Samsung does very well, and other brands do it as well. But again, bring that across, transform things. And you still want to cover the features, very important, but you add the features plus the benefits associated with it. Another example, again, because Samsung was actually the best example I found of doing this very well. You have the ultra-wide camera, and the feature can even go a bit more technical, and you can mention that there's 4 cameras in the rear, 2 cameras in the front, blah, blah, blah. It's irrelevant to this point. The fact that you mentioned that feature, you can then drag it across and transform that into a benefit, capture life as you see it. And that sentence alone is already powerful, but then you add it to the component that I mentioned before of what it looks like, and you suddenly get a picture of a guy on a beach, and you can see this massively wide picture, which gives you, okay, so this is what they actually mean. And I see how I could benefit from it, and when I go in holidays here and there, I really want to take a picture of all the things. So, very important benefits. So, that wraps up the components. And just a very quick summary. As I mentioned earlier, value proposition is only as good as your customer's understanding of it. When you are working through your pages to enhance those components, you are actually increasing your user understanding of your offer and ultimately providing them, and ultimately that will lead you to stunning conversion uplifts. And when I say stunning conversion uplifts, I'll mention those a bit later. But we have seen genuinely stunning increases at Kaspersky before, where you are increasing things like conversion rate, average order value, trial download simultaneously by adding that perceived value. So please do focus on it on your testing. How do you actually bring everything together? So how do you actually bring all those components together? The answer to that is storytelling. I have a little image here. You guys can read through it. I found it online, and I found it very useful. I didn't actually write this piece. But the point being that with all those components of value proposition, storytelling is critical. You want the users to start at the very beginning of a page, to position them, to really understand where they are at, and then use a narrative, a story, to tell them all those components that I mentioned. And that will allow you to be emotion and allow you to engage with your customers, and eventually that will lead to better results. And as mentioned earlier, on one of the examples I mentioned, Slack does a fantastic job at storytelling their product. So if you guys want an example, please go to the slack.com website, have a look at it, compare how they do things, they're explaining what the product does, how it works, how it looks like. All of that is very, very clear how you can see everything. And if you switch to different pages, you can see how each of the pages is a story to tell. And that's quite brilliant. Another point is that content is king. It has always been. And obviously, if you guys are into SEO, or if you know, or if you work closely to the SEO team in your company or anything like that, your content is king from an SEO point of view. But from a CRO point of view, it's exactly the same. Because value proposition is all about providing the users with the information they need to have. And the way to do that is with content, with images. And there is a cool sentence here, which is, no matter how cool the book design is, all you care about is the content in it. You don't buy a book just because the cover looks nice, unless you want it for decoration's sake. But it's what's inside it that counts. And I have a cool advert here, which is from the very first time the orange juice came about. It never existed before this, and it started in the US, and it kind of progressed from it. And I'm gonna zoom in on it, and I'm gonna read it to you guys because the readability might not be the best. Where it says, "Orange juice, a delicious beverage in health fullness itself. California orange juice is rich in flavor and bouquet. Have you a tendency to overeat? It provides aid to digestion that counteracts the ill effects of the heavy meal." And so on, so on. This is the very first time that orange juice was created. Nowadays we go like, I want an orange juice and that's it. But you were this person that had to write this was trying to create something new, something that the market didn't know existed. People used to eat fruits, they used to eat oranges, but drinking it's a different story. And the only way they could do it is by showcasing the benefits of doing it, by writing about it, by explaining exactly what you would get. You would get nice flavor, you would have these benefits to help you with overeating, to the way to aid with digestion, health for the family, regulator, etc., 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 etc. He used content for it, and it helped him sell a product that didn't exist. However, when we talk about CRO, people are still coming up with stuff like this. People are coming up with this, you shouldn't have red buttons because green is better and red is negative. Red has a negative connotation to it. And I'm going like, really? Are you sure? What about your page contrast? Does it have an effect? If your page is red and you are putting red, if your page is green, you are putting green buttons, are you sure the contrast is the best? Are you sure you really be doing it? And most importantly, do you really think that's what drives the user to make a decision? Or is it the content on the page that you are working on? So when you are comparing working with friction, working with the design aspect of the website versus adding the value proposition, it's not even comparable. Sure, you can do your CTAs later on, or you can leave to your decorator designers. It doesn't really matter. What matters, it's the content, it's what you are trying to sell. it's what drives the needle, what makes you the 20, 30, 40% revenue increase that you can shout about. And that's what leads me to the next point. Value proposition is KPI agnostic. And what does it actually mean? It means that you can, as I touched on earlier, really, you can actually lead to improvements in all the primary KPIs simultaneously, which on top of all the benefits we have already touched on, it makes it even extra powerful. And the reason for that is simple. You are adding more value to your product. The perceived value is increasing, and therefore the users will see it as a better product, and they are more likely to take an action. They are more likely to go for more likely to go for more devices, more quantities, and they are more likely to try the product if you have offered a free trial or you have a premium or a freemium service model. But they are more likely to take an action regardless of what it is, because you are increasing their perception of value of your product. And when you really reach that sweet spot where you find what your right value proposition is, and obviously you can go more in depth here, and you can look at different audiences and personalizing for different audiences segments, etc., which you definitely should. And depending on the more complex your business is, the more complex and more audiences you have, the more this evolves. But if you do that, you are going to be looking at 10 to 100% uplifts as the norm. You could even go higher than that. And if you think back to your test results, have you seen a lot of uplifts that led to completely doubling the number of conversions that you have? Or doubling the revenue? Perhaps not. Because you are focusing on menial stuff, things like CTAs, as I mentioned earlier, redesign changes. Everyone does a redesign of their pages, and then they see the conversion dipping, because they are just changing friction, and they are not playing with what actually makes sense and what actually drives the needle. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility, as you would know from Spider-Man, and I genuinely can't say this enough. You always need to test. The value proposition, it will give you results and insights, which is critical as well. On top of the results, you'll get insights, because as you are doing it, you'll understand what the users want to know about your product, what they want to see. So you are gaining insights that you can then pass across to your media channels, affiliate channels, etc. But don't jump to conclusions, and never jump to conclusions, really. Verify everything, no matter how obvious it might seem. Please test, please verify your hypothesis, what you believe is needed based on your user research, your user tests, analytics, whatever. Make sure you test it, make sure you verify it. Because you could be completely going in a different manner to what your users are. Normally you shouldn't, but you could be testing something that just doesn't affect them, and then you change your product mix. You actually decrease conversions because you didn't fully understand, which happens. It's CRO. We are all about testing, about learning. So experimentation, testing, it's essential. Make sure you do it. And to wrap up, I would like to mention that if you want to learn a bit more about value proposition, there is one place that I generally recommend you look at. So you can go there, this optimizationacademy.com. You can go there and cover some of the points I touched on, but also different points. It's less mainstream than most of the courses and universities you go to, but it really has a lot of in-depth knowledge around value proposition. And if you want to further your knowledge on this, this is something I would genuinely recommend you to look at. Finally, that's it for me. You guys can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and Kaspersky I'm actually directly recruiting a bunch of people right now for CRO, so you can even reach out to me about that. But any questions that you might have over this presentation, over anything else, please feel free to reach out. But that's it for me. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you so much, Ruby. That was a very interesting, well-structured presentation. I've been to so many websites where I've just not understood what their offering is, and I've bounced immediately. And it was such a pleasant surprise to see the VWO plan comparison page. taking a spot in your presentation. We put in a lot of thought and effort into getting that right, and I think it being present on your slide deck, it's a compliment in itself. I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask at this point. So like you said, there are 6 components to the value proposition that needs to be offered, but time and bandwidth is always a constraint, and making changes and movements on all 6 aspects may be practically impossible almost always. So if you had to tell us one component that we must always try to pick up first, which one would that be? It is applicable to any project, in fact.
Sure. So I guess a standard answer and a very well-known CRO type methodology, I guess. The above the fold part of the page is essential. So, and that normally where you would literally explain what your product is. So the number one value proposition component, because that would be essentially your focus. You really want to position your product. So when the user lands on the page, obviously, depending on the methods and the methodologies that you are following, you also want to grab their attention. You want to make sure the information is there, etc., etc. But focusing on what the product is right away above the fold allows you to position the product, which will then allow you to essentially structure the story afterwards with all the other components when you have more bandwidth or more time for it to test, etc., etc. But essentially, what it is would be the number one thing.
Have you ever seen a UX or a design test that has had a bigger impact than a value proposition test?
Not as much. I have seen them connected. So if you're doing value proposition testing and you include UX and design on it, you would see it extra impactful if you are doing the UX changes based on your value proposition. But for the most part, one versus another, you would always find more impact in increasing the perceived value of your product to the customer against actually reducing the friction with the new redesign. And the ratio I would think of that would be 4-to-1. I would value proposition 4 times higher than friction changes in terms of the actual results you get in the end of the day.
Makes sense. So tell me, Rui, if I feel that the existing value proposition on my website is a little too weak, should I just go ahead and make a change on it without testing?
Well, I mentioned it before, and the genuine answer to that is I don't think you should. I think for the most part, let's reiterate that for the most part, I mean, if there is the case that your page literally doesn't have any value proposition, it's just a matter of adding it, perhaps that's fine. But whenever you can, whenever it's possible, testing is essentially, and at the very least, understanding or having a background of data to make those changes is essential. But testing is, if you can, do it, because you could always take the risk of actually be lowering your conversion rates without knowing because you added the wrong value proposition or things like that. So testing is essential rather.
And VW helps you do that. One thing that I was thinking during your presentation, which I think I would like to add as my thought on this, is that whatever you said, definitely it holds true. It's not just that it is applicable only for websites. I think the 6 value proposition components are applicable to any kind of communication that you design. It's applicable for presentations, product pitches, product decks, sales collaterals, and everything. So yeah, it's a very, very good takeaway, not just for optimizers, website optimizers, but for everyone who's trying to sell a product out there.
Yeah, I completely agree with that statement. I mean, we within Kaspersky, we do all kinds of stuff. We have mobile applications. We have like the B2B products that sometimes are sold, or for the most part are sold on a face-to-face or with a salesperson connecting directly with the client. And it's valuable everywhere. Obviously for us in the digital world and with all the testing platforms, it's easier. So digital marketing teams have it like in an easier manner to actually be able to test the experiences, check what works, what doesn't, and that's brilliant. But for sure, it's applicable everywhere, offline, online, mobile apps, anywhere. If you add the value to your product and if you're improving it, you'll benefit from it.
So tell me, Rui, are there any books that you're currently reading?
Well, the honest answer to that question, I have a 2-year-old boy, so the real honest answer is that I would be reading him. What I have been reading most lately would be like bedtime stories for him to fall asleep. But other than that, for the most part, I like to read a lot when I'm doing business travel. So as Kaspersky, as the offices everywhere, I do tend to go around Europe mostly to travel. So whenever I'm on a plane, I try to read. And recently I've been reading Webs of Influence, The Psychology of Online Persuasion from Natalie Nye. And psychology is something that I've been reading a lot more and more on because it kind of connects to everything that we do. So that's the book I'm reading right now whenever I can. But it's something that I'm pushing more and more to do is psychology books in general on top of that one.
I know you've already mentioned in your presentation how people can connect with you. Would you mind sharing that once again?
Yeah, it's on my LinkedIn. That's Rui M. Matos on LinkedIn, or just look for my name on it. The picture is the same as you guys have on the was presented on the slides. So find it there on Global Head of Conversion Optimization at Kaspersky. You can find me there. Just get in touch, connect with me there, and I can get back to your messages.
All right, great. I hope to connect with you myself, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of people coming up to you and asking you a lot of interesting questions, engaging in conversations with you. Thank you so much, Rui. It's been an absolute pleasure listening to you and having a conversation with you around conversion optimization and making your website messaging better. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much as well.